this train. So Lord, we thank you in advance. Get ready, get ready.
Good God afternoon, people of God. I am back. You have tuned into another episode of The Solutions. I am your host, Minister Corey Wright. And as always, we know what the problems are. We know what we need to solve them. What I offer on this platform is solutions. Dedicated acts of action that bring about true change, not just talk about change. And no excuses. Excuses are man's tools of incompetence that build bridges in nowhere and monuments of nothing. People, I'm back from vacation. I got my special guest, Pastor Chanel Austin. Amazing man of God. Amazing book. Author of amazing book, relationship book. And believe me, we got a powerful show going on today. Before I get to my special guest, I want to say special thanks out to my pastor, Robert Sams II, for filling in for me last week. He did a phenomenal job. He'll be on the show Friday. This whole week, we're dealing with disconnecting from negative people and negative situations. And we have one of the greatest marriage counselors in the world, one of the greatest men of God in the world. You know him, but I'm gonna let him introduce yourself. People of God, I introduce you and present to some, introduce some. Chanel Austin, Pastor Chanel Austin. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pastor Chanel Austin. I am the senior pastor of the New Israelite Missionary Baptist Church on the south side of Chicago. I am the author of the book, Ladies, Let's Talk Relationship Real Talk from a Man's Perspective, POV, or Point of View. And right. I'm just happy to be here, and let's get this thing started, man.
All right. Well, first thing I want to talk about is disconnected from negativity. I got the questions.
Okay.
But how do people disconnect from negative people, negative relationships, negative thoughts? How do people disconnect from negativity?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that when it comes to negative people, they are both unavoidable and avoidable. Unavoidable in the sense that negative people are part of your life's resume. You have to deal with negative people. You can't avoid negative people. As a matter of fact, we all at some point in our lives will choose negative people to travel with us at some point. Jesus taught us that with choosing Judas.
Wow.
Judas is probably one of the most negative disciples, and his intent and what he was all about and what he stood for. And so at the end of the day, God allows us to choose negative people in our lives, and he allows it to happen so that negative people can grow us up, and so he allows them to be in our lives for a season to help us to become who he has called us to be. I used to always struggle with that because I'm like, why would God, why would you choose Judas? Why would you choose someone like that? You know everything about him. You know his pedigree, you know his mentality, you know his heart, you know what he stands for. Why would you choose someone like that to travel with you, to be part of your official cabinet? But then the Lord, it was helping me understand that that's something that you have to learn how to deal with. You have to learn how to deal with negative people. We have negative people in our families, negative people on our jobs. I wish I could say, and I love my church, but I have negative people that I pastor, so at some point you have to understand that negative people, you can't avoid them. But just because you can't avoid them doesn't mean you can't avoid them. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So just because you can't avoid, just because you can't escape them doesn't mean that you have to give them power in your life. And so that's what I've discovered.
Okay. Well, let's get into some relationship questions about negativity. Is it important in a relationship for your mate to bring out the best in you? Why not?
Absolutely. But I think that, you should be in a position where you've already discovered some of your strong points. But I do believe that a person who you choose to spend your life with, or you spend time with, they should bring out the best in you. They should put you in a place where they help you see some things or teach you some things that you need to learn to help you become a better person. And I think that if you are with someone who is not helping you grow or helping you see, and listen, when I say grow, they not taking over where you're weak at and just saying, hey, I'll hold this down for you. But I'm saying they're teaching you, hey, listen, you should at some point, I'm gonna show you how to do it. Just for instance, my ex-wife, I'll never forget, I was in college and I, had to do all these papers.
Okay.
And while I'm typing all these papers, I was typing with one finger. And so what
Wow.
I was tired. So I was like, man, it's gonna take me all day to finish this paper. So I say, I need you to type this paper for me. So she did it a few times, but then afterwards she told me, she said, hey, listen, no, I'm gonna show you, you need to get here, sit at this computer and learn how to type these papers yourself. And now I'm a proficient typer, and that's because she challenged me in that area. She told me that, hey, listen, I'll do this for you, but I'm gonna show you how to become better in this area. And so I think that, you don't want someone who's an enabler in your life, but someone who will empower you to become. So that's my belief on that.
Now, in a relationship, feelings are so important. Emotional stability. If your majority of your feelings is always miserable as opposed to happy, is that in your view a toxic relationship?
Absolutely. Wait, let me get this. So you're saying if my feelings are like that?
Yeah, if a person's feelings that they always, it just seems like when they always around this person, they just bring you down, or you more glad to leave them than be around them. Is that a toxic relationship to you?
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the thing of avoiding, how to disconnect from negative people. Okay. So we can't avoid negative people. Negative people gonna always be around us. Sometimes we're gonna choose relationships, be in relationship with people who are negative. You're gonna, and we all can testify today that at some point we chose someone, that was very negative, and their emotions were all over the place. But at some point we need to know how to position people around us. That's very important. See, we don't know how to spiritually position people. We don't know how to emotionally position people. We don't know how to mentally position people. And we definitely don't know how to physically position people. And once again, let me go back to Jesus choosing Judas, a negative disciple. He still chose him. He chose him to teach us that, listen, at some point in your life, the people that you sit down at a table and break bread with are going to be negative. Dr. King, he had a photographer who passed away some years ago, and this photographer, they called him the photographer of the civil rights movement. The first photographer of the civil rights movement. And the crazy part about it, come to find out that he was working for the feds also, and they found out about it. But he said the same thing. You're going to have these people around you. You just got to know how to position them. You can't, you have to know how to position them emotionally. You can't let them have your emotions, because at the end of the day, if someone is bringing you down, they're bringing you down because you're allowing them to bring you down. I hear it all the time. I hear it in counseling. I hear people say, well, they did this to me. They did this to me. And that's why I did this. Well, at the end of the day, you still got control over your emotions because God gave you those. Those are yours. You have the power to control your emotions. You just got to know how to position people in your emotions, position people in your mind. For instance, let's talk about positioning someone spiritually. Abraham, he's called to sacrifice his son. So he's on his way to sacrifice his son. And while he's
hello, let me just caller, you tune into the Solutions Radio Show. How can I help you? Hello? I guess people call in for your questions. Go ahead.
So Abraham, he's on his way up to this mountain, and he takes with him his son and some other people. And while he's on his way up there, he tells the guys, he say, y'all stay right here. Me and my son are gonna go up to worship. Why didn't he take those men with him? Why didn't they follow? Well, I strongly believe because they would have intervened in that which he was believing God for. Or what he was called to do.
That's good. That's good.
So everybody can't. So he had to put them in a certain place, even in his spiritual life, because they would have interrupted what God was trying to do for Abraham and what he was going to do for God. And so I just believe that if you're with someone, it is a toxic relationship. If someone is always trying to bring you down, that's a toxic relationship. And you need not attach yourself to that person, because the truth of the matter, if someone really cares about you and loves you, they want the best for you. They want to lift you up. They want to bring you to a healthy space and place. Does that mean that you're not going to have some level of challenge, some level of emotional struggle, physical struggle with that person? Are you going to be, void of arguments and stuff? Absolutely not. But there will be a level of health in it where you say, okay, today we sick, but we're gonna get well together. So,
that's amazing you say that, because I try to do that, especially in a relationship. I care about somebody, I love somebody. I try to disconnect to the point where I don't say nothing to harm them or hurt their feelings, or I'll take as much time as I need before I say something to them, so that what my words won't be detrimental, or that I won't be connected, not so much not connected to them, but I won't be connected to the negativity that is being created amongst a situation of maybe misunderstanding. So that is very important. You say positioning somebody spiritually and emotionally, especially spiritually, to be able to be able to lift you to another higher level in God. How do you position somebody emotionally?
Well, you position someone emotionally by having a healthy view of yourself, because oftentimes when someone is trying to pull you down, they're trying to get you to believe that you are something other than what God has called and created you to be.
That's good.
And so they would
try.
Yeah. And so that what they would try to do is convince you. They just like, for instance, I'm reading an amazing book called Why Is It Always About You? The 7 Deadly Sins of Narcissism. And this book talks about, the danger of being connected to narcissists, because narcissists believe that it's always about you, about them. It's always the world centers around them, and they employ certain tactics to help promote their narcissism. Help give feed or growth to this narcissistic mindset that they have. And so at some point, a narcissist will try and they'll inflate themselves to the point where they'll say, well, this is who I am. And if you are trying to be better, if they feel that you're trying to be better than them, or you have grown to a place where, watch this, it doesn't cater to who they are, or it doesn't say that, listen, I don't need you to need me in order for me to feel needed, then what they would do is that they would start to try and pull you down emotionally, work on your self-esteem and destroy it, so that your self-esteem will start to say, so you'll get to the point where you'll start to say, well, I'm so bad that I do need them.
Wow.
So you have to maintain a level of, you have to have a healthy view of yourself, regardless of what may be said. Now, does that mean that you ignore?
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Solutions Radio Show, you on the air. Who's calling?
Man, it's D-Ice.
Hey, D-Ice, what's up, man?
I'm chilling, man.
That now tomorrow's show we're gonna be talking about Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford, but we're talking about relationships right now, negative relationships. You got a question for Pastor Austin?
I mean, negative. You said you speaking about negative relationships, far as man and woman.
Yeah, it could be people in your life, family members, friends, any negative relationships.
Well, yeah. My question will be to that is, where do we lose that value of love inside of the relationship? Because there's no more loving in a relationship. It's all about who can benefit off of each other instead of the actual passion of loving each other and going places together. So that would be my question. When did we lose that love?
Pastor Austin.
You said, where did you lose it?
Yeah, where did society lose loving each other?
Well, I mean, once again, I just had this conversation with someone, and we were talking about society, and the reality is this: this world is doing what it's designed to do, And that's work against anything that's good and righteous. That's what society is. Its nature and its intent is to work against, anything that God has set up that's powerful and positive and righteous. And so, but we have to do, just because I step in a room, that I don't have to allow the room to define me. And so at some point, even though it may be lost, we still have to maintain the love and promote it to a sense of, well, I was just recently, I had the pleasure of witnessing one of my preachers graduate from seminary up in Washington, and shout out to Keandra Atwater. And so she asked me a question: will we ever achieve racial reconciliation? And this is what I said. I believe not. I don't think so. Because in order for racial reconciliation to take place totally, people have to embrace truth. And the reality is that everyone isn't going to embrace truth. So everyone is not going to embrace the truth of what love is, what true love is. Because some people believe that love is, selfish. It's more, me, myself, and I, and, forget about everybody else. So as long as there is a non-embracing of truth, we always going to have that. But you have to make sure that you're one who embraces truth, and you demonstrate what true love is.
Okay.
Hey man, I appreciate it, man. I grew up this guy on 118, and we was over 118th Emerald.
Okay.
Amazing guy in the pillar in the community, doing a lot of good. Hey man, I just want to let everybody know, Antoine, man, you're doing a lot of good in the community, man. Love you for it, man. I appreciate you, big bro.
All right, Glory be easy, man. Talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, man. God bless.
All right.
But let me say this, because I don't want to put something out that I didn't give the rest of the story. Now, when I told her that about racial reconciliation, I said that doesn't mean you stop trying to achieve racial reconciliation. Say we still keep going for it, but it's going to be a continued journey. I think it's going to be something that we always wrestle with and fight with until the Lord returns back to clean all this mess up. So
okay, that's deep. Let me ask you a question. In relationships, makes not having the same goals and passions cause a negative rip in the relationships?
It does, because if you all have two different set of goals that you all can't come together on or agree on, then that's just, the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they both agree? So at some point, you have to make sure that whoever you're partnered with has, is willing to pour into you to get you where you need to be, and you pour into them and get them where they need to be, and not feel intimidated by what you're going to eat. Because listen, you may be in a relationship with someone. God may partner you with a woman who may be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And you may be and I'm not diminishing your role or anything, that you may say, okay, well, I just work at Ford Motor Company, and she is the CEO of that particular of that particular company that you work for. Well, at the end of the day, she still should be able to promote you, push you to help you be the best in that area. If you're working on the line, she's helping you become, and likewise you as well, and you not be intimidated by the fact that she may be making more money than you, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if the goals are not the same, the drive is not the same, you're going to be caught between what I call a terrible pull and an awful push. And that's just how I see it. Okay,
now let's give me a ratio scenario of fighting against laughter. Now, we're not going to always agree with each other in relationships, but you should be laughing more than you fighting. If you're fighting more than you laughing, then do you think that's a resume for a disastrous relationship or a negative outlook on everything?
If you spend more time fighting in a relationship than you are laughing, you are in a bad relationship. Let me say this. If you're laughing all the time, you're in a bad relationship.
Wow. Okay. Now flip.
Because if you're laughing all the time, that means that you're not dealing with some real issues. You're ignoring some things that's happening in a relationship. If everything is just a joke, everything is laughter, all that stuff. Because let me tell you something, man, you have to remember when people come together, they meet each other in the middle of their movies. And so when you meet someone, they may be in scene 10. You may be in scene 14. So you have to recognize or try to understand what has taken place. Why are they in scene 10? You have to figure out what happened between scenes 1 and 9. And likewise, vice versa. So at some point, you have to understand that, there are always be challenges in a relationship. Challenges that will literally wipe the smile off your face. You know what I'm saying? So it's not going to be laughter time. It's serious. It's time to work. Just, like the Bible says, it's a time, place for everything. It's a time to laugh, time to cry. So
let me ask you a question. And it's okay. I'm digressing a little bit, but I want to get on what you said about scenes, because I was talking to somebody that I really care about, and they said to me that I want to know about your past. I want to know about everything you've been through so I can try to understand your existence. My philosophy is that the place I'm in my life, this is what God bought me, and everything I've went through in life is because of God being grace, his grace bringing me through it. So I want God to be a trust my glory, but to see the true me is to see me in spiritual light, or see me the way God sees me.
Mm-hmm.
Is it important, or is this person right when they saying that I should open up my past to them so that they will have a greater insight into me I am today? Or is it that looking into my past is giving them maybe an analytical view of me as a man of God?
Well, first of all, you have to, weigh motives. You have to, there's a principle that I now live by. It's a formula that I live by to be successful, and it's called, and it's pause, ponder, and proceed. So when a situation presents itself to me, I don't immediately jump into it. I have to pause first. Then I have to ponder over what's before me, who's before me. And so you have to ask yourself the question, is what she's requesting of you for the benefit? What is her intent? What are her motives for asking you that? And which is a good question, because I believe that at some point, that in order to understand the person that's before you, you need to know, because like I said, once again, you in scene 10, and there are 9 scenes that came before scene 10. And so you need to know, it may be you may meet someone that the credits rolling up, and you want to know, man, why are you at the end of your movie already? Why is it such a short movie? And so that's a good question. But, I've come to understand that you can't trust everybody with your sacred secrets. That's what I call them, sacred secrets. But I do believe if someone is genuinely coming to you who wants to know you, and you all see that there's a future that you're trying to establish together, that at some point you have to allow truth and transparency to be the 2 determining factors in which you operate, because that will help them to understand you and know you as a person. And then it will show you also about them, because it will show you if they can handle you. Because a lot of people can't handle what you've been through. They really can't
handle the truth.
And then some people will look at what you've been through and judge you on that. And then you won't be like, I don't need this type of person in my life, because I don't need a person who can't understand that we fall down and get back up. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't need a person who would look at me and judge me based on where I come from. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that you come from somewhere also, that you have some skeletons in your closet also. So I believe that at some point you have to say, hey, if this person's motives for asking you that particular question, that, hey, I'm willing to share that.
Okay, well, let me say on the air, and I know she's watching. You were right, and so I'll tell you whatever you want to know about me. Whatever you want to know, because I know your intentions are good, and God revealed the answer to me through Pastor Austin. And people of God, please call in with your questions. Amazing man of God, number 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953.
Because let me say this, if you want to build a healthy relationship, you should open up what you've been through. You should give them the opportunity to make a determination if they are willing to go the distance with you. I don't think it should just be because listen, when we meet someone, all of us want to present the best us or best me. You want to give this person, the refined version or the revived version or the representative of, the best. You don't want this person to see the good in you. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
if there is genuine good in you, you should show them how you got to this good place, because you weren't born like that.
Okay.
Straight up, you weren't born good.
Right.
And so you should let them know that, hey, listen, I had some struggles, I had some issues, but this is what God has done for me. And I think that's only right that you give that to someone. I discovered some relationships that I've been in that some of the issues that I ran into, it posed trouble because I didn't come right out and tell them something that happened in my life, and they had to hear from another party. And it was kind of frustrating because, this person is a great person. I had been with this person and that person loved me. And then all of a sudden, they're hearing these things like, I heard that this happened, and then I had to come back and revisit something and say, yeah, this happened, blah, 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 blah. And I should have just been open and say, hey, listen, this is what's what. Because like I said, once again, if you are a genuine person, you want that person to be able to handle, know you and make a determination if they're willing to go the distance with you.
All right. Now, negativity in a relationship, how much do time spent cause relationships to be negative? The lack of time in relationships, because you might have to work. You got bills, responsibilities. You might be in a job where you mandatory a lot, or you might be in a call of God where you have to sacrifice a lot of your time. How important is time to a relationship, and could lack of time cause the negativity in a relationship?
Well, some of the contributing factors to negativity in a relationship is one, breakdown in communication, and of course time. There's a level of I'm not putting in the time or the work, the energy, and effort. Selfishness creates negativity in a relationship, and so you have to find out what is causing negativity within the relationship. What is creating this level of problem or in a relationship, and you have to deal with that. So if time is the issue, then you have to say, okay, well, listen, let me find ways to better the time or manage the time, because listen, man, we make time for what we want. We really do. At the end of the day, we can be as busy as we want to be. And sometimes we say when we're busy, we're really not that busy. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we have to make a determination on what we're going to do. We have to find out what's really negative in our lives.
Let me ask another question. Long distance love. Mm-hmm. Can long distance love survive, or eventually somebody has to make the move?
Yeah, long distance love will eventually diminish. The relationship will eventually die out, because at the end of the day, what helps build relationship and define relationships is time spent. That emotional, mental, and physical connection. You got to have those spiritual connection, all that stuff, because of course you can spend time on the phone with someone. You can spend time on the phone with someone. You can, talk to someone, you could talk to them all day. You can send them letters, send them flowers, but at some point there has to be a level of interaction with that person, some level of physical. When I say physical interaction, that, there have to be time spent, like, hey, let's sit down and let's have a cup of coffee or some tea. Let's go to the movies, stuff like that. Those are the things that help build relationships. So I believe that at the beginning and the inception of long distance relationships, that things are built, some genuine things are built, some genuine, like communication is built, those things are because that helps out, that's built. And then But then if you don't bring those other factors in, that's going to literally wipe out the relationship.
Okay, now here's a real good question that somebody gave me, and I'm gonna give it to you like they gave to me. This person said, "Do people really love their mate, or do they just love the person they want them to be?"
Well, some people truly love their mate, and then some people love the person that they want them to be. See, and that's a danger because, some people fall in love with an idea, and then all of a sudden a guy come along or a woman come along and they try to force fit that person into that idea. They try to say, you're going to become this idea, or you have the potential to become that idea. And the idea that they have in their head may not even fit that person. And so now you're trying to love this person into something that, listen, they don't even want to be. So at the end of the day, you have to make sure that, because all of us have an ideal mate in our head. You have an ideal mate. I have an ideal mate. I have an ideal with this person, but everybody may not fit. Everybody don't fit that mold. And I can't just grab someone and say, this is my idea, and I'm going to force you into this idea. Because what's going to happen is going to create frustration for me. And then this person is going to be unhappy because this person is trying to live up to a standard they probably don't even want to be part of. And I've seen that happen so many times. I had a friend one time, man, his wife left him. She left him because she didn't want to be part of what he was part of, which was something powerful and great and positive, you know what I'm saying? But, once again, she didn't want to fit into that idea of, God's design for that particular, or will for his particular life and theirs.
So, could you say safely that everybody is not designed for your call?
Absolutely. Because listen, let me say, see, what we get messed up is the whole idea of authorization versus qualification.
Oh,
there's a difference. Listen, at the end of the day,
wow.
All of us, just because you're qualified for something doesn't mean you're authorized for it. Because qualifications deal with external stuff. You got the looks, you are qualified to be with a woman. I'm qualified to be with a woman. I got the qualifications to be with a woman. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean I'm authorized to be with that woman, because authorization comes from someone higher than you. It comes from someone that's in a great authority to you. And just because, and I talked about this one time I talked about this with David. I preached a sermon on David and Bathsheba. Man, guard your heart. And I said, even with the authorization versus qualification, David was qualified to be with Bathsheba. He had position, power, looks, money, riches, kingdom. He had all that stuff. Those are qualities that women would look at and say, hey, man, that's good.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. But David wasn't authorized to be with her. God didn't authorize him to be with her. And what happened? He created a bad situation.
Right.
That's good. You have to understand that just because I'm qualified to be with you doesn't mean I'm authorized to be with you. And you have to know that. Because if I'm, bro, it's like this, Corey. If you have this, here it is. God has amazingly anointed you. You have this calling. You're gifted. All this stuff, and then you get with somebody. You see someone, and you have everything. Then someone comes along that's ratchet. You know what I'm saying? And they may be beautiful, but they ratchet, and they live opposite of what you're doing. Did God authorize you to be with that? Or them,
Wow,
so you're just getting with it because, that's something that you want to do. So we have to understand the whole thing of authorization versus qualification. Just because I'm qualified doesn't mean I'm authorized. And that's the truth.
Wow, people of God, that was deep. That was something I needed to hear, because everybody you with, you could be qualified to be with them, but don't mean you're authorized to be with them. And, that's so powerful. And if you're with somebody you're not authorized to be, there's always going to be a stalemate.
Right? Oh, it's going to be, listen, let me tell you something. If you are with someone that you're not authorized to be with, you're always going to give birth to a birth defect. David gave birth to a child that was defected and ended up dying. And we never think about that.
Wow.
So you remember David got with Bathsheba, had the first child, and the child what? Died. So it's always going to be a relationship that has a defect in it. Why? Because you got with someone that God did not authorize you to be with.
Well, then how do you disconnect from somebody that you're not authorized to be with, that you're in love with?
Well, at some point, you have to gain a sense of self. You have to know who you are, because you got to remember that whole fiasco with David and Bathsheba stemmed from David being out of position. Remember, we were talking about position earlier.
Yeah.
It stemmed from David was on the balcony when he should have been on the battlefield. Because the Bible says that the kings were off the war during that time. David was supposed to have been on the battlefield. But David is on the balcony, relaxing, chilling, and he looked up and he looked across the way. He said, oh, man, look at my neighbor. You know what I'm saying? And so by David being out of position, what happened? He lost a sense of self. And when you lose a sense of who you are, you'll start doing things that's opposite of who God called you to be. And so you'll start doing things that doesn't match your calling, doesn't match your character, doesn't even cater to your greatness. You'll start. And so at some point you have to regain a sense of self. I've been there. I've done that. I mean, I understand this. Listen, I'm not saying this based on just that I've read this. I'm saying this based on my experience. You know, I was in a situation, man, that messed me up, that literally destroyed my ministry, destroyed my life, destroyed my name, everything. And so when God began to open my eyes and say, hey, listen, you got to get out of this. He said, and I'll never forget, the Lord told me, get up and get out of it, or I'm taking everything from you. I never forget that, man. And so at that point, God gave me a sense of self back, because I lost sense of who I was. And he said, hey, listen, this is who you are. This is what I called you to be. This is what I called you to do. You know, don't do this. Get up and get out of this and reposition yourself. Get back in position and get off the balcony and get back on the battlefield and fight for your name. Fight for your family. Fight for truth. Fight for your church. Fight for everything that I've given you. And so that you won't be in there looking across the way at your neighbor and get caught up in something you have no business to and give birth to something that's defective.
Wow, man, that was a deep testimony. I didn't know that.
Yes.
So the wrong relationship can destroy everything. And God told you, if you don't get out of this, I'll take everything away from you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let me say this, man. And this is to everyone who's listening. I don't care how anointed you are. I don't care how gifted you are. All of us have the potential and proclivity to get out of position every now and then. And the reason we get out of position is because we lose sense of self. You know, I'll never forget, a preacher from California once made a statement. He says that don't ever say that you won't fall into sexual immorality, because what you're saying is that you are godlier than David, you are stronger than Samson, and you're wiser than Solomon. Those men.
Wow, you got to say that again.
That you're godlier than David.
Okay.
Wiser than Solomon, and you're stronger than Samson. Let me say it one more time. Godlier than David. When you say you'll never fall into sexual immorality, what you're saying is that you're godlier than David, you're wiser than Solomon, and you're stronger than Samson. David epitomized godliness. He was a man that God affectionately said was after his own heart. Solomon was the epitome of wisdom. There was none wiser than Solomon. Samson was the epitome of strength. There was no man stronger than Samson. Yet, in those major areas of godliness, wisdom, and strength, they all failed to sexual immorality. All of them. But at some point, you have to maintain who you are. And know who you are, and say, hey, let me maintain my position. Because even when you fall, God gives you the grace to get back up for the purpose of you, and I'm writing a new book on this for men. I'm doing the men for the men. And so God gives you grace to get back up so that, watch this, you can get back in position. Because you remember, after David gave birth to that child that died, and let me share something with you that was so, because I just preached a sermon, Living Beyond the Birth Defect.
Come on.
That was so powerful that I preached a sermon Sunday about living beyond birth defect. I said that whenever you step outside the will of God and you engage in something or in something with you engage intimately you become intimately involved with something or someone that's outside the will of God, you will always give birth to something that's defective. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just talking about a baby. You know what I'm saying? You can give birth to defective character. You can give birth to a defected relationship.
Wow.
And so one of the things you have to remember is this, and it's the points I raised Sunday. I said, one, you can't, what David taught us is teaching us is that, listen, you can't give your seed to anyone or everyone who is not authorized to carry it. So because what your seed is the very thing that gives life, creates life within the relationship. Your seed can be your time. Your seed can be your emotions. Your seed is your emotions, because whenever you plant your emotions in something, it has the power and potential to create life within it. Whenever you plant your time in something, it has the power and potential to create life within it. Whenever your anointing on your life is a seed. So when you plant your anointing in someone's life, it has the power to create life within that relationship. But guess what? Everybody is not authorized to carry your seed, because everybody can't handle your seed. David gave his seed to Bathsheba, and she was not authorized to carry his seed. So he gave his seed to the wrong person. So then my second point that I raised is that you can't expect God to save something that he didn't sanction.
Oh, now that's good. You gotta say that again,
you
man.
Can't expect God to save something that he didn't sanction. Goodness. So here it is. The child is dead. The child is dying. David is praying for this child. Now, God already told David that this child is going to die, but David still went into prayer mode. He was praying. But let me share with you something, and I want to share with the audience something that was sad about David. When the child died, David didn't know it. Everybody else knew it was dead except David. The worst position you can be in a relationship is walk around in a relationship that's dead and you not know it.
Oh my God! Look at the odds, man! You just hit some. You just hit some.
And so here it is. So here it is. David is, he's praying that God will save this child, but God didn't sanction that child. And so I see that often that people would pray, God, save this relationship. I'll see men and women cheat on their spouses, get into a relationship with their mistress, leave their husbands and wives, get into a relationship with their mistress, and then that relationship going crazy, and you praying, God, fix this marriage. God didn't sanction that. You know what I'm saying? You'll get in a relationship that God already told you that thing was going to die before it even got started.
Wow.
He said it's going to die, but you sitting there praying for it. And so God is not obligated to save something that he didn't sanction. But God will save you out of the situation and grow you up. And so that's what he did with David. He said, listen, that's why when Nathan visited David, told David all this stuff like, man, what you did was wrong and all that stuff. David was, you at some point, you have to understand that God is more interested in saving you out of the situation so that he can grow you up from it. And then my final point was that God will, that you can't sit around, suffering and just sobbing over something that has succumbed. The child died. Prior to the child dying, David was in a state of mourning. He was looking like he was going through. He wouldn't even eat. He wouldn't do nothing. He was sad. He looked trifling. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
He finds out the child is dead. David didn't sit there and cry over that dead child. It said he washed his face and he changed his clothes. Now that was very interesting that David changed his clothes, because the changing of clothes symbolized the changing of character. Like, I'm taking off what I did and I'm putting on a new man.
Okay.
So at some point you have to stand up and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn from this mistake. And that's why David was able to pen one of the most profound Psalms within the Bible. He penned Psalm 51, and he said in there, Lord, created me a clean heart and renewing me a right spirit. Because David changed his character. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But once again, let me go back. He got into a situation because David lost sense of himself. And he lost sense of himself because he was out of position. And whenever you're out of position, you are always engaged. You will find yourself engaged in something with someone that you have that you have not been authorized to be with. You may be qualified, but you're not authorized.
You may be qualified and authorized. And so, man, so it is better to live in sadness to get out of this unauthorized relationship than end up regret later.
Yeah, let me say this. This is one thing that you're gonna have to face when getting out of a bad relationship. It's two things you're gonna have to do. One or two things. You're gonna either have to say goodbye so you can leave, or you're just gonna have to leave so you can say goodbye. I'm serious.
Oh, that's good. Wait a minute, you gotta say that one again. Wow.
You're gonna either say goodbye so you can leave, or you're just gonna have to leave so you can say goodbye. There's a difference. One is more amicable. The first one is saying, hey, goodbye, I'm leaving, you know what I'm saying? And the first one says that, man, you may have to just say goodbye, and later return, you know what I'm saying? Because, sometimes we return to grow up and all that stuff and get things together. But then some folk not gonna let you leave. They're gonna not want to see you leave. And so you just gonna have to just leave to say goodbye.
I'm learning that the hard way. Some people don't let you go.
No, man, I know that.
We all have a picture of our life,
mm-hmm.
what we want our life to be, what we want to obtain in life, how we want to retire. Is it very important that your mate that you choose,
mm-hmm.
and I'm speaking prior to choosing that mate, have to be a person that fit in your picture? And what I mean by your picture, not just your future, not just your passion, but your picture. Because when I mean by picture, there is a certain way you operate your life.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that you do on a constant basis. There are certain things that you get the best out of you. So is it important that that person fit in your picture?
Well, let's start with this. Tupac said something in one of his songs one day. He said, "Picture perfect, we paint a perfect picture."
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, he said, "Picture perfect, we paint a perfect picture." A perfect picture is not one that's without flaw. Let me say that first. But you have to make sure that the picture that you want this person to become part of is not your picture, but it's God's picture for your life.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's
because
deep.
I can paint a picture and it may not be the portrait that God wants me to be part of. I'll never forget, my members went out for they had a social event. The women's ministry went out, and I think it was a painting, sipping paint, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
My members were getting drunk and they were painting. No, I was just playing.
Wow.
It was sipping paint. And so some of the portraits came back were amazing. And I was just sitting there like, man, I didn't know you had this creative stroke to your life. I didn't know you can paint like this. But then someone informed me, said, no, it was a pattern here already. And I just followed the pattern.
Okay.
And it became this beautiful picture. And that really preached me at that moment, because I come to understand that
I'm still in that service.
God has already put a portrait together for me. I just have to make sure that I'm putting the right colors to the portrait to make it a perfect picture. That because someone can come in and with the stroke of one brush mess the whole picture up. They can come in and distort the whole picture if you allow them.
If you allow them.
So you have to make sure that this person can see the masterpiece and they're willing to follow the pattern and help you paint a perfect picture that God has ordained for your life.
That's deep. Now we're gonna get into some mindsets, and I got about 12, so we're gonna try to get through these mindsets.
Okay.
The first mindset of negativity in a relationship is labeling.
Okay.
Labeling. Why do people label people so much? Or why is labeling such a negative bullet in relationships?
Well, let me say negative labeling, because there is positive labeling and then there's negative labeling.
Okay.
Positive labeling helps build and encourage and helps a person to become. Negative labeling, people will negatively label you because sometimes putting a label on you is their way to control you.
Okay, all right.
So, and then putting a label on you is their way of getting you to a place where, watch this, they feel good about what they are not. So they have to devalue you in order for them to feel valued.
Wow.
So my grandmother taught me something, and one of the wisest women, most impactful women in my life, woman in my life was my grandmother. Love her to death. May she continue to rest in peace. Um, she said to me, she always told me, she said, son, don't ever call names. She said, don't ever call names. She said, listen, you think your grandfather never made me mad? She said, but my mother taught me, you bite your lip until it bleeds. Because once you put a name out there or a label out there, you can't take that back. And it has the potential to do damage. We used to sing this song when we were little, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That was a lie. Let me say that was a complete lie, man.
I've been called some stuff.
Yeah, that was a complete lie, man. I mean, sticks and stones on my phone. Sticks and stones do hurt us. I mean, names do hurt us. So at some point you have to get to a place where you understand that labeling is damaging to a relationship. You can effectively disagree without putting labels on someone. You can tell a person, hey, listen, I don't like this about you. What that move you made was not smart. It was a stupid move you made, but you don't have to call them stupid. You stupid. There's a difference with saying that's a stupid move you made and then saying you stupid. So
okay. Next mindset is fortune telling mindset. That always know the future. If you don't do this, you ain't gonna have this, or I've been through this before, so I know if you don't do it this way or my way, it ain't gonna even work. What about people have that old fortune telling mindset?
Well, let me say this to you, that a person, when you come to a relationship, everyone comes with a wealth of experience. You've come to the relationship with with your mate with experience. She comes to the relationship with experience, and so some things that she can see and predict because she's been there, done that, got the hat, t-shirt, and keychain to match. Same with you. And so at some point you should be able to say, don't do this because this is the results of it, because I understand it. And then let's even talk about, let's think about, with God. God gives you that level of that gift of prophecy to say, hey, listen, I see where it's going. And I'm just trying to help you to understand. But someone who always say, just with that, just predicting or projecting their hypothesis with no truth to it, because at the end of the day, if they tell you something, I tell people this all the time. If I'm in a relationship with you, our opinions shouldn't matter. Biblical truth should matter.
Absolutely.
Because that's just your opinion. You know what I'm saying? Your opinion is your opinion. But if you can prove to me biblically that this is what will happen, you can say, based on the Bible, this is what I see, then that helps things turn a different way. So
okay. Now the next mindset, and I know you're gonna enjoy this one, the mind reading mindset. They're always trying to interpret your partner's motives. Always, I know what you mean by this, or you know what, when you said that you meant this by, or you know what, you didn't have to say it that way. You could have been a little bit more understanding when you said it, because you didn't have to hurt me that way. That mind reading.
Well, let me say this. One of the dangerous positions you could be in a relationship, well, one, you're forced to read someone's mind. Now, you should never be forced to read someone's mind. I think that, once again, let's go back to communication. It's just like the woman who comes in the house and she's mad because he didn't cook a pork chop. You know what I'm saying? Now, one, he didn't know she wanted a pork chop. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know she wanted it. You know what I'm saying? And she never expressed that she liked pork chops. You know what I'm saying? So, but now she just all upset. She, got her butt on her back. You know what I'm saying? And she like, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. She's shutting everything down. And then he was like, he keep asking what's wrong. Nothing. And you like, wait a minute. You keep saying nothing, but let me know what's going on with you. You know, I can't read your mind. So I think that what helps builds a relationship is healthy communication. That at some point you have to say, hey, listen, this is what's bothering me. I don't like this. I don't like the way you hold my hand. I don't like the way your toes scratch my legs at night. You know what I'm saying? But then the flip side of that, the dangerous part you can be in is a person who thinks they are a mind reader. You sitting around, you thinking about something that's going on the job. You thinking about, okay, man, how can I, just say you're preaching. You're thinking about a sermon. You're saying, okay, well, man, I'm gonna work on this sermon. You think about, and they look at you. Oh, see, I know what's wrong with you. You mad at me? I'm not. I'm
thinking about the sermon.
I'm thinking about the sermon.
How many times I experienced that?
Oh my gosh, man, both of those spectrums destroy relationships. When people try to read your mind and they don't know, I have people, I've been in relationships where they say, oh, I know what you're thinking. You absolutely don't know what I'm thinking.
You don't know what I'm thinking.
You don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe you thinking like that, but I'm not thinking like that. Oh, I know what you're thinking. And then you have the people who expect you to read their mind. You know what I'm saying? Who expect you to know what's going on. You walk in and, you're like, I didn't know that. Well, you should have known it. How? You didn't communicate that to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Okay, now, what about a negative? I think it's a negative mindset. It's the catastrophic thing. Everything, the whole world gonna fall. Like, I lost my checkbook today. Now I ain't gonna be able to eat for 7 years. Or you know what? The people, they guys want to see me down to the doctor. I know I got something. What about them catastrophic thinking mindset people?
Man, one of the worst relationships you could be in is one where people always is doom and gloom. It's always like people, oh my gosh, the dog ain't barking today, the fish just died, the car won't start, or we ain't gonna make it. There's a person, man, in a relationship you have to be optimistic, man. You have to have a level of optimism that says, hey, leaving in rainy and stormy days, you're saying, hey, we gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? We gonna pull through this. You need to have a great level of optimism. And optimism doesn't, it's not saying when you're optimistic, it doesn't ignore the obvious, but it looks beyond the obvious into a greater and more positive light. And it reinforces God's truth and promise, and it helps promote health and wealth within the relationship, and helps you to see a better space and a better time where people can say, you know what, dude, we are gonna make it. Because if you're in a relationship that was no encouragement, man, I encourage you to leave.
And a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, I got people who want to talk to me or want to be around me, want to be near me, but you don't want to talk about nothing but your problem. Ain't no how you doing, how's your day. You're an awesome person. It's just the first thing I'm going, I need to do this, I need to do that, I ain't got this, I ain't got that. And I'd be just like, I just need to disconnect from your negativity because they don't get that. Why don't so many people get that you gotta want to entice somebody to want to talk to you, want to be around you, want to be near you. If you just this negative Betty, then don't get mad if people don't answer their phone or don't want to talk to you or cut their conversation. I gotta go. See you later.
Man, we have, it's a running joke that we have in my family that there was a particular person's name I shall not mention, who would just, as soon as they come in, I wasn't dating my brother, one of my brothers was dating. As soon as they come in, all of a sudden, the channel goes to the worst news you can see. All of a sudden, the room gets real dark. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, man, everybody just starts crying because this person comes in and literally sucks the paint out, the air out the room, the paint off the wall. All of a sudden, tornadoes, hurricanes, everything hits the house that we sit in. Why? Because this person came in with that type of negative fear.
Wow.
So,
Well, now here go another one. What about the person that always the mindset of emotional reasoning all the time? Everything has to be from an emotional place. That I can't even have a conversation with you without getting emotional. And every time I talk to you, I got to bring up every emotional thing I've been through. You know, it's like, how you doing? I don't know what I'm going to do today. I don't know. I'm gonna, you know, always the emotional reasoning mindset. That's the negativity in the relationship.
well, yeah, that is negativity in a relationship because at the end of the day, there should be emotional balance within the relationship. There should be a level of emotional stability on both parts. That because everything is you shouldn't approach everything from an emotional perspective. Sometimes you have to approach it from a spiritual perspective, an intellectual perspective, and not an
Okay.
emotional perspective, because sometimes feelings can be deceiving. Just because you feel that way doesn't mean that you may feel the way about feel a certain way about something. That means that it's factual. So at some point you have to get to the place where there is emotional stability, there, emotional balance, and that's important.
Okay, now this is the one I really want you to hit on. The negative filter people, meaning that they always put in something negative in their comments. They're the hitting people. Like, it's good to have you here, even though I asked you to be here yesterday. or you know what? Thank you for the $50, even though I did ask you for 100. Those negative filter people.
Man, those particular individuals, that's another person. People you have to, you can't allow them airspace. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, people who are like that, they're very selfish in nature, narcissistic in nature, to be honest. And their whole point is to drain you. And so make you see something. They never see the good in something. They always see, you tell them, they'll come out, they'll say, they will, and the crazy part about it, they will acknowledge something good. They'll say, man, it's sunny outside, but man, too many, it's too many this and then to happen. You're just like, oh my God,
Yeah,
why
right.
everything has to be, just bad, And they look, I see this, I see it's so funny. No offense, women, please don't take this personally, but I see that in women. They'll be like, man, that old girl's sharp, but her kid's dirty. You know what I'm saying? And her kids may not even be dirty. You know what I'm saying? Or girl, she dressed cute, but I wouldn't have wore that. I would have like, come on, just give her a props, man. Leave her alone. So those type of individuals who always got that conjunction of negativity, they always throw that but in there. You know what I'm saying? They throw that, you say this, they say the good, but leave it right there. It's good. Let's leave it right there. You don't have to always be negative about it.
Right. I've seen something, man, and if you want to comment on it, I seen a guy give testimony cussing. But God brought me today, so I'm gonna have a MF good day today.
You know what? It's so funny, and I guess it's the cynical part of me. I kind of want to see that happen. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you why. Just because we just to see like for real, like wow. But I hear people with these stories. Now I'm just kidding. I don't want to see it happen. I really don't. But people like that, man. You have to understand that they've been processed. They've been processed just like us. Some people just more open with theirs than because there's some folks who never cuss in front of people, but you get them behind closed doors, they cuss like sailors.
So, preach on Sunday, cuss you out Monday.
Exactly. So it's you just got to understand that they are being processed. You know what I'm saying? And what you see him today, he may not be that way tomorrow. So.
Now here go one for you. How do you deal with the negativity of thinking people? That all or nothing thinking people. Either you gonna be on this side or you gotta roll.
Well, I think, and I personally believe that that's a positive trait to have to a certain degree. because what it does for the person who has that type of mentality is that it establishes for them more of a made up mind. It helps promote a level of self-esteem to say, hey, listen, and it creates standards for their life where they say, hey, listen, I'm not going to allow you. Either you're going to roll with this. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. You know, either you're going to roll with it or you're not. So it's good to a certain degree. It's good, but it's also, you know. And I was sharing with someone, you know, we were talking about the divorce rate, and they said that the divorce rate, it is statistically shown that the divorce rate is higher with people who are second time, like it's 65%. The first time, then when you get married a second time, the divorce rate is like 75%.
Wow.
And the reason is like that is because the tolerance level is real low. You know, what you used to tolerate, you don't tolerate no more. And I said, that's good and that's bad. It's good to the sense that you can see some things that you don't want to go through again. I've been there, you know, I don't want to go through that again. I know that. I know what that's going to create for me. I know. And so in a first relationship, you tolerate more because you don't want to fail. You know, no one wants to fail. So people are not quick to jump into divorce because they're saying, hey, you know, I'm going to hang it out. I'm going to ride it out for a while. But then you've been worn out so bad that when you finally get married that second time, your tolerance level is so low that by time certain things come up, you be like, you know, what you used to tolerate, you don't tolerate no more. So you give up real easily. Okay. That's good, but that's bad also. It's bad because sometimes you can throw a good person away prematurely.
Come on, speak
so
on
that person is good, but that person, you don't understand that person being processed. So all of us are being processed. We're all going through a process of where God is building us and making us. And so at some point you have to, you know, having that all of nothing mindset is good because it establishes standards for you. But then in some way it's bad because you have to ask yourself, what if everyone said that to you? What if someone did that to you all or nothing? Because sometimes you're just not all the way in yet. You're still growing and maturing, you know, because you can't handle everything in the opening stages or whatever being presented to you.
You know, and it's one of the points of mindsets, and this has always been a bullet in my life when it comes to relationship with ladies, is that I always run into ladies who they always discount the positive that I do. You know, they always discount the positive. I mean, let me mess up. Let me make a mistake out here for the next 20 years, 30 years. But I can do 200 things good. But when I do that one thing bad, it discount everything positive. Well, how you deal with those?
Well, one of the things that, you know, if you keep running into that type of person, what you're running into are women who are emotionally unstable and spiritually unstable. Because one of the things that, you know, we have to I'm gonna just be real. Women have a harder time forgiving than men do. You know, because women are so emotional, you know, they're emotional creatures, you know what I'm saying? We can be like, man, I'm done with it, let's move on. You know what I'm saying? Women are not like that. Women will sometimes hold on to, you know, you didn't let the toilet seat down 10 years ago. And then they walk back in and it's up again. Then they say, okay, well, you didn't take trash out. Oh, you didn't take trash out. And yeah, I remember you left the toilet seat. You selfish. You know what I'm saying? So right. It's further, you know, it's further pushing the narrative in their mindset about you, whatever they've made up in their mind. So you have to make sure that woman has a healthy level of spirituality to the point where she understands the true essence of forgiveness. That forgiveness is something that, watch this, frees her. You know, forgiveness ain't about you, it's about her. And so it frees her from, watch this, the prison that you created, this pain that you purported. And so at some point she has to say, you know what, I forgive. And forgiveness is this: you can't forget what happened to you, but you can forget it to the point where it no longer affects you. And that you have to keep bringing it up, because that's a true sign of forgiveness, that I can deal with you to the point and treat you like you never did what you did to me.
Wow, that's good.
That's what true forgiveness. And people don't understand the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness liberates you, man. It sets you free to operate and be who God has called you to be. When you walk around with unforgiveness, it's in your heart. It's primarily because you have this level of emotional instability and spiritual instability. Something is wrong on the inside that you don't want to let go. You know what I'm saying? It's just like this. You would know something is wrong with a kid if his parents told him don't touch the hot stove. Then they turn around and they grab it and they still hold on and it's just burning their hand. You'll look at that kid like either you possessed with the devil or you just flat out crazy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so you have to understand that when a woman is holding on and constantly reminding you of your failures and not your positives and just keep bringing that stuff up, man, that's really not something wrong with you. It's something wrong with her. And you have to make the decision on is this the person I want to deal with? Is the person I want to be with? And so people like that, they have to fix what's on the inside first.
Wow. Now, this question is for the people who dating. This is the mindset of the people who date. I used to date a lot of people, and I call them should peoples. How do you eliminate dating the should people? And these are people say, you should have known that I like this, or you should have known how to treat a woman, or you should know how to contact me, or you should know that I like this, or you should know a man's position, or you should know a man's place. How do you get away from them should people?
Well, the should people are the people who should go sit down somewhere. The should people who always say what you should know, it's primarily because once they really don't understand human interaction and relationship, how to build relationship. And you can't expect someone to know something that watch this. I'll never forget one of my preachers. I'll never forget one of my preachers didn't do something, and I got he got up to do something, he didn't do it, and I'm like, man, I've been doing it. Why he ain't doing it? But then the Lord convicted me. He's like, you should teach him. That's what you really need to do.
Okay.
Spend some time with him, communicate with him, tell him what needs to be done so that he can get up and do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? You can't just expect people to do something. You just can't look at a person and expect them to know something, because sometimes people may look like they know, they really don't know.
Right.
So what the should people should do is should communicate, and ask, do you know how to do this, before you just assume that I know how to do it. Ask me, do I know how to do it, before, you should know this, you should do this, you should do that. And in some instances, it's not like that, man. So those particular individuals who are always, throwing at what you should do, you should this, you should that, they are insufficient within themselves. Because when you really sit down and ask them, because what they would do, they would tell you what you should do, but when they don't do it, they're going to give every excuse as to why they didn't do it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So you have to at some point understand that, hey, that's not, those not the individuals I need to be connected to, because I'm always going to be insufficient in their eyes. And there's not going to be a promotion of, or there's not going to be a working together of relationship to help build a healthy relationship. So
that's good. Now, number 10, because we got 3 more.
Okay.
Make sure we get to them.
Okay.
Number 3 is personalization. People that's always taking everything personal. Everything you do, they take personal. If you chew a certain way, you chewing to get on their nerves. Or if you walk away, or you wearing the wrong color, you doing it to get on their nerves. Everything, those people that make everything about them, everything that happens about them. How do you get that negative with negative people that always make everything personal?
Well, let me say this about those particular individuals. For one, they are narcissistic in nature, because it's always about them. But also, that's something that psychiatrists called character defect. There's neurotic behavioral disorder, then there's character defect. A person who struggles with neurosis or neurotic behavior is that person will walk in a room. They would do something wrong in a room. Everyone would say that this person's at fault, but they would blame the whole room. They'll say everybody else in the room is wrong except for them. So
Wow.
they take no responsibility for their actions.
I know
But then, yeah, I know plenty of people like that. And then the person who has a character defect, you know, they personalize too much. You know, they'll go out and rob a bank. And I'm going somewhere with this because the person you're talking about, this person is more of a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? So the person with the character defect will walk in and say three people go rob a bank. You know, all three willingly go rob a bank. All three walk in. All three had a plan. All three agreed. And then that person will take all the blame. Oh, it's my fault. You know, they didn't know no better.
Right.
You know, and those individuals with character defect, they personalize things too much. That can be that type. You can be that person where you have character defect, where you personalize things. But then in your case, what you're talking about, that's a person who is just a narcissist. And it's always about them. You know what I'm saying? They personalize everything. You know, so if you say something that's really, oh, you know, you trying to, you know, it's not about you. It's not about you. And so that they can feel good, they need that fanfare. They need to make sure that praises are going up for them. But then when things aren't going their way, they start personalizing. I mean, look at the White House, man. I mean,
You're right. You're right.
Look at the White House. You have this man. He, you know, when truth is being spoken about him, who do he blame it on?
The media.
Amen. He blame it on the media.
Right.
And it's the media's fault. So.
Right. Oh, that's good, man. And you know, now let's get into the next one. Perfectionists. You know, negativity and people that's always perfect, but you always not. How do you deal with that mindset and negativity in relationships? That perfection type of man. You know that if I'd have did it, you know, it would have been perfect. But since you did it and I didn't do it, you know, it's not right.
Well, once again, a perfectionist is tied to narcissistic behavior or narcissistic disorder, because a person who is a perfectionist really, and listen, it's nothing wrong with striving for perfection. You know, I think that, you know, a person who wants to try to be great, because at the end of the day, are we perfect? No, but you should be progressive. You know, there's a difference. Right. You know, being progressive says that, listen, I'm going to every day work hard to become better than I am or than I was. And that's having a progressive nature. But a perfectionist can be very detrimental to a relationship, because if it's not perfect, they will kill it so that they won't feel insufficient in it, or they have to take the blame why it didn't work out.
Okay.
And so if it didn't go the way it was, way they had in their mind that it should go, or they're perfectionists, they say, well, because have you ever seen a perfectionist operate to the point where they're putting together a program or something and then it don't go? They so frustrated, and then they literally start blaming other people for it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's because, you know, at the end of the day, we have to understand that none of us are perfect. All of us are, you know, we're always work in progresses. And so you don't want no one who's a perfectionist, but you want someone who's very progressive, who makes up in their mind that every day I'm gonna try to be better than I was, and that my competition isn't you, but my competition is myself. That I'm competing against the old me. Because oftentimes, man, when you encounter perfectionists, they always are trying to compete with what's outside of them and not what's on the inside. And that's true. They're trying to always compete with, if that man put up a 2-story building, well, I got to put up a 10-story building.
Right.
And, you know, and it has to be perfect because these particular individuals are watching. And so.
Now, number 12, now we go get into these people. These are the people right here that make my noodle. These are the blaming people.
Blame everybody but themselves.
Everybody. How do you avoid those people and choosing a mate, looking for a mate, or even interviewing a potential mate? And how do you disconnect from those blaming people?
Well, I'm gonna say something to you. If you're with someone who always blames everyone else for what they don't have or what they're not, you're literally raising a child.
Wow.
You're with someone that's very
Wow.
immature, because mature people take responsibility over their actions. Um, Once again, let's go back to this. It's connected to it's narcissistic behavior or disorder. That a person who is a narcissist always blame other people for what they don't have. You know what I'm saying? If it didn't go right, it wasn't my fault. It was their fault. But your hands was on the steering wheel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so at some point, you have to get to the place where you understand that, hey, listen, if you're not going to take responsibility over your actions, what I will end up doing is that I will start taking responsibility over the stuff that you need to take responsibility over. You will never grow up, and I'll stay burdened. I'll be in a place where I'm emotionally overwhelmed, mentally overwhelmed, spiritually overwhelmed, because I'm always carrying your baggage that you need to carry.
Wow.
And so dealing with people who are always blaming other people for anything that messed up in their lives that they did, you have to, for one, you have to be willing to speak truth to them. You can't let them, you have to set boundaries and say, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what you did, whether you accept it or not. If you don't accept it, I can't give you emotional space in my life.
Now, being that, I am approaching, being single now, but I'm approaching the relationship, or I'm looking for a potential mate.
Mm-hmm.
What are some steps that I can do to evaluate a potential mate, and evaluate this mate according to God's call for my life?
Fix you. Find out, start to assess everything, every bad relationship you were in, and start asking yourself the question, why did I get in those relationships? Because listen, no one forced you into those relationships. You got in those relationships. Because I say this, if you can't, you'll continue to not see if you ignore the fact that you're blind. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so at some point you have to fix your sight, your emotional sight, your spiritual sight. You have to fix your mental sight. You have to fix those things. You have to start asking yourself, what led me to bad relationships? You know what I'm saying? And so when you start to fix what's inside of you, you'll be able to determine what's coming at you. And I wrote about it. I went back to that relationship. I told you that almost literally crippled everything in my life.
How long ago was that?
That was about 19 years ago.
Wow.
Almost crippled everything in my life. But check this out. I met that person probably 5 times already. I've seen that person show up 5 times.
At your church?
No, in my life, period. Like I've seen that person. I've seen that person, not that particular person, but her kind 5 times already. Because the Bible says ain't nothing new under the sun. So everything is recycled. So
okay.
Some of the bad relationships you are in are going to reappear. While you're in this state of singlehood, they're going to reappear and show up again. They're going to show up again. But if you're not fixed, you're going to reattach yourself to that same thing, because we attach ourselves to things that we're familiar with. And so at some point, you have to start fixing your mind and saying, hey, listen, I've been there, done that, and I understand this type of behavior. And if I reassociate myself with that or attach myself to that, I'll be in the same position that God delivered me from. I'll be right back in it. I'll be like a pig going right back to the slop.
Wow, that's deep. Let me ask you a question. Now, this is off the relationship, because tomorrow I have a show where I want to be talking about Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover. And I said that the city of Chicago is in a state of emergency, mm-hmm. and that they should allow them to get out with the government backing to see if they can organize and maybe curb some of the violence in the streets. Now, I'm not making little of what their past or anything, but you have the young kids out here with no, just wow. could they have a positive effect on the community if they were able to get sanctuary, or they were able to be set free in the communities?
My perspective on that, and I'm coming from a perspective that, you know, I used to be in a gang, you know, so I understand the whole nature of gang life and that whole culture. Do I believe that they will have an effect, a positive effect on what's going on out here? To a certain degree. To a certain degree. Because once again, we're dealing with because for one, to get out here and change that, you'll probably have to restructure, bring back the structure that was once there. That's dangerous. So you'll have to implement, because you have to remember the reason why it wasn't as wild as it is now is because there was a level of structure there. Within the context of GDs, you had, governors, regions, what I'm saying, chief securities and all this. So you had destruction. People fell up under those modes of leadership. And so if you're trying to retain that wild beast, you'll probably have to implement that structure that was once there before, which can be detrimental once again to our community. It can hurt us more than it can help us, because, once again, what are you going to employ to tame this wild beast that's running wild again? Are you going to bring back the same tactics? You know what I'm saying? That,
Okay.
the same tactics of beat downs and all that stuff, if you don't apply to, organizational rules and structure. I mean, there is a level of, I do believe one of the things that has happened is that when they cut the head off, the body went crazy. And so when you cut the head off the snake, of course, or cut the head off a chicken, the body gonna run crazy. So I do believe that there will be a certain level of their voice will be able to speak to certain people. And some may say, hey, let me reconsider this, let me get out of this. And you may say some. But then how far, my question to them would be, how far are you willing to go? What are you going to tell them? Will you tell them to stop selling drugs? How many of them going to stop selling drugs?
Okay.
How many of them going to say, okay, well, let me go back to school and get an education and better my life? You know what I'm saying? So it's really something that I personally would say, to a certain degree, yes, it may save some, a few, a little. But, my question is, what strategies will be implemented to tame this wild beast? Because this thing is wild. This is like
that's good.
This is a animal that has been unleashed on our city that has no sense of morality, no sense of value. Because, and let me say this, back then it was organized confusion. You understand the difference?
Right. Gotcha.
Now it's disorganized confusion. Organized confusion is that it was confusion. It brought confusion to our neighborhoods, to our communities, but it was organized. Y'all follow this structure, blah, 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 but you still were destroying the community with drugs and, gang banging and all that stuff. It still wasn't promoting, a sense of, health and morality within our communities. And so my question would be, you probably have to implement that same old structure, which was organized confusion, which still had a negative effect on our community.
Casualties.
So yeah, all day long. So, but this here is disorganized confusion. There's no organization to it, and it's creating chaos and wreaking chaos and havoc upon our city.
Because I remember, and I've seen a documentary with Jeff Ford on there where he he had a news conference, and he told him that it will be no murder in our community will be no killing in our community without killing. That he threatened the police department on national TV about retaliation against the people. Now, not to glorify any violence or is terrible, but you're right. It is a very unorganized mess out here.
Yes.
And them being symbols, maybe they can wake some, because you got a lot of people like yourself and a lot of like the guy called Antoine who's building the community up, that's been there, that's doing that. And we got to try something. I'm just saying, because we in such a state of emergency. But here, let me thank you for answering that question. I appreciate that. That's tomorrow show people.
And I think it's a very unique subject to tackle. I mean, I think it's something to really consider, because what we're seeing is that there are limited. We're running out of resources. We're running out of remedies and solutions, and what we're seeing in the community is we're seeing a reality of what we're facing in the home, because what's happening outside is because of what's happening on the inside. So at the end of the day, it's going to take a resurgence of, or a revitalization of the parental structure in our homes, because I don't understand how a 13-year-old boy can sit in your home with a pistol and you not know he had it in his home, in his room.
Come on.
We couldn't even, man, when we were growing up, we couldn't even bring, if that bike didn't belong to us, our mother was like, hey, that ain't your bike. I didn't buy it. Don't you bring it to my house.
That's right.
And so at the end of the day, I think that it has to be a turning around, man, of we have to work out what's going on in these homes. We need to target the homes and figure out how to make a better home for that will produce more positivity, because what's on the inside is going to affect what's on the outside.
Well, I think, that's amazing insight, and man, I hope you tune into tomorrow's show. It's going to be awesome.
I will.
Give everybody your information to your church, your service times, and how they can reach you. And people of God, he will be back. He definitely going to be back. I appreciate him coming back. Go ahead.
Well, my church is New Israelite Missionary Baptist Church, 1625 West 75th Place, on the corner of 75th and Marshfield. Our service times are Sunday school at 9 a.m. and service times begin at 11 a.m. Tonight, we're having our last night of revival, in which I will be preaching it tonight. So you feel free to come out at 7 p.m. You want to hear a word from the Lord, a powerful word from the Lord. 7 p.m. tonight. That's 1625 West 75th Place on the corner of 75th and Marshfield in Chicago. I can be reached at, I'm on Facebook, Chanel Austin. I'm on Instagram, Austin19721. I'm on Twitter. And so you can reach me at those places. If you want to purchase my book, Ladies Let's Talk, Relationship Real Talk from a Man's Point of View, you can look at it on, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and so you can get it from there, and that's where I am. So that's how you can contact me.
All right. And people of God, as always, we looking for sponsorship. You can go to my GoFundMe page on my page, and you can donate. I thank you guys for donating. I thank you guys for being a part of the solution. Again, I'm glad to be back. I'm back from vacation. I was in Arkansas. It was wonderful. Only thing about Arkansas is the fresh food kept me in the washroom all the time. I'm used to getting Harold's chicken around the corner. And I ate, they bring the chicken neck and cooked it that night.
Oh, wow.
But I was in the toilet. So, but I thank you guys for following me. I thank you guys for coming in. Thanks my special guest,
bless you,
Pastor Chanel Austin. He will be back. People of God, this was an amazing show, and it was amazing for me because I learned a whole lot. I admit that I was wrong about some things. I will be better, and
Praise God.
So
Praise God.
Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, no excuses. Get up and be your own rescue. Be the change that you want everybody to be. God loves you. Solution loves you. Take us out in prayer.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you so much for this day. We're so grateful for all the things that you have done for us and with us and through us. Lord, as we come, we ask you, please forgive us of our sins. Lord, thank you for this platform that you've given Minister Corey and his friends and his comrades, his co-workers, a platform and social media, a platform and on the radio where truth can be spoken and those who hear it can be healed and delivered. Lord, I'm just praying, God, for all that heard, who tuned in today, God, that, Lord, that they heard the truth that was spoken. And I pray that in the area of relationship that they will begin to prosper and flourish and become the people you called them to be. I pray for this radio station, and I pray, God, that you would do something amazing here, God. I pray that sponsorship, they would not have to ask for sponsorship, but they will receive a overflow, an increase. That, Lord, you will send forth resources, because, Lord, we know one thing: you own a cattle on 1,000 hills. So, Lord, I pray for your glory, that, Lord, you will bless this intellectual radio station, that, Lord, it will be something that travels worldwide, nationwide, and that many will come to know you as their personal Lord and Savior through this work, this ministry that's being performed here. I thank you for my brother and those that are involved in the work of this ministry. Continue to bless now, God. And I'm praying today, God, that you will send increase like never before. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Peace, people. See you tomorrow. All right.
My. You don't want to miss this train. So, Lord, we thank you in advance. Get ready, get ready.